Hello, hello. It is Sunday. Sunday Reads. I've been for a lovely, lovely swim in the nearby gorge. Which, if there's a body of water near you that is clean that you can jump into or ease yourself off the dock like I did into and have a good swim, that is really the way to go in the summertime, isn't it? Well, it's Sunday Reads, but it's DNF therapy time, unfortunately, for me, or fortunately. It's one of these things of DNFs. I don't DNF a lot, and it takes me a bit to DNF, as we'll see. Unfortunately, in this, let's get the DNFs out of the way because that's probably where the bulk of this little little Sunday reads will go. The first book that I am DNFing is A Constellation of Vital Phenomena by Anthony Mera. Yes, this 2013 novel, which comes really highly recommended. Ironically, I picked this up because of Sean the Book Maniac saying that this is one of his like favorite reads, and Sean is kind of really well known as the Empress of Bales. I don't know how he would feel about me using my very limited Bale powers on this book, but this is a really well written book. This is a really, really well written book. I was struck how it's set in the Chechen Wars, around a little girl whose father gets disappeared by the Russian occupying soldiers. Ends up at a hospital where with female doctor who's kind of going through stuff with her with you know stuff with her sister. The guy who takes him there is kind of a failed doctor. It's got a lot of the really hard stuff of war, and shot through with humor, but I have found this really not engaging for me for whatever reason on an emotional level. I've gotten, I've I'm on page, I'm stopping on page 232. Um, I just, I just couldn't engage with it. It's funny because the other book I probably engaged too much with. This one, I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't find an emotional reason to kind of continue going back to it again and again. And as such, that made it a slower read, and then a slower read, and then a slow read, and that grinding. Um, it's just like I know at this point, with this amount of the book in, that I'm going to get to the end of it, and I'm going to have had that 232 pages of it at least that I just wasn't engaged in, which just doesn't make it worth it for me to read. So I sorry, Sean, if you're watching this, you know how to get out in contact with me and give me a good talking to. Though I suspect that you respect the Bale, even if you really wouldn't think that this would be a Bale book for someone. But yeah, it is for me. Um, and then, God, and then I also always have I have a paper book going, and at the same time as I was struggling through that, for whatever reason, I decided to pick up Shuggy Bane, and Shuggy Bane is a 2020 Booker winning book by Douglas Stewart here. With isn't that a nice soft focus cover of just the love between the son and his mother, which is such bullshit. uh, this is it's a novel of a boy with a alcoholic, addicted mother, a brute father who in the early parts of this rapes that said mother, brutalizes her physically in other ways, um, tosses her off for other women, um, and is used as a bit of an excuse for her alcoholism, but that's is I and this is set in Glasgow. This is a book which I way too much engaged on emotional level. I guess my father was an alcoholic, and I had a rough time of that myself, and I found myself. Now, Douglas Stewart has basically said this is an autobiographical novel, autofiction. I don't know. It's basically you look up the Wikipedia entry on his life, and then you look at the plot synopsis for this novel, and they match. I'm sure he's done plenty of fictionalizing. I don't know how much fictionalizing in that. I mean, if I had gotten through the book, I would have treated it as just as a novel. And but man, I fucking hated Shoogie's parents. I hated them. I hated them so much. There was a burning rage there, which is probably got much more to do with my emotional state towards my own family issues than it does with them. There was just a weird thing of, and this is Thatcher's Britain, where everyone is basically, none of the men have work. It's just you drink all day, and it's the dole, and I started finding myself just despising these people in general, which is just like, wow, well, there's a real asshole right wing, it's like, but this was, and it came down to it, is I had such kind of roiling things that I stopped listening to the goddamn audiobook. And I stopped. So, and maybe it's this particular, it's probably got to do with my own stuff. There's also just this thing of I've done creative writing, taken it in classes, and it's like kind of one of these truisms that what people first come out with their stories is they come out with their alcoholic asshole parents, or some kind of whatever trauma of their childhood. That's the first burning story that they have to get out of them before they maybe go on to actually create stories or create something that's a little bit wider than themselves. I mean, I have to give it up to Douglas Stewart of what I've read in there. He does actually kind of get into these two parental features, and I maybe, if I'm gonna have a regret, it's that I didn't get to see more of Shoogie himself, who looks like he's probably gay and gonna get all that wonderful fucking homophobia to misery that way in there. So, but it's the double whammy. It's the double whammy of the two books of Shoogie and of this together. It's just like, wow, I could not stand two things that I was going to. I could just see my next month or two kind of extending out in front of me, and it wasn't pleasant. And screw it. I'm not here to tick any boxes or signal exactly how wonderful I am. I'm here to just enjoy myself in reading, and that wasn't going to happen with these two books. So with that, I put them aside and I went for a swim. Hooray for the ebook, because the ebook is where I actually have been continuing along. I'm continuing along with Just North of Nowhere by Lawrence Santoro, a book, 2007 novel set in kind of this Midwestern U.S. Town, which is definitely sprinkled with sort of all sorts of kind of magic realism. I just finished a chapter 12, which is called God Screamed and Screamed, Then I Ate Him, which is a chapter where this is a really loose assortment of book, but the character of Bunch, who lives under a bridge, and seems to terrorize the tourists, calling them terrorists. It's kind of the literal town troll, and has kind of this odd relationship with this Italian American woman who's come to town, has a white streak down her thing, and is basically the town witch, in a good sense. In a good sense, and he comes to her and he relates this tale of basically meeting these Cthulhu like creatures from a from H.P. Lovecraft, where they take him, give him this fleshy kind of odd creature with human eyes that kind of excretes glowing webs, and captures this, and uses him as kind of a fishing lure to hunt or fish a god, and drops him into it, and he eats it, and it's just it is good, bizarre. It's fun. It's like there's no the plot in this book is like it's not there. It is really kind of an assortment of a portrait of this whole town, this kind of weird, fantastical yet kind of mundane town, with some of the writing verging on the purple, or sometimes on the kind of slightly corny. But I'm enjoying it. Lawrence Santoro was an audiobook narrator. I knew him from various kind of old podcasts. He passed away of cancer a while ago, but I can hear his voice in this novel that he's written. So I'm really enjoying that. I am continuing along with Flappers Flappers and Philosophers by F. Scott Fitzgerald, this 1920 collection of his short stories. And it's one of these things of like I have noted throughout it that there is definitely a lot of reflection of kind of the racism and the sexism of the time, especially black people in America, and F. Scott Fitzgerald very much kind of reflecting kind of the even what was probably seen as liberal at the time, but now is definitely kind of pretty racist attitudes towards black people, the idea of kind of the romance of the South, and just kind of attitudes towards women as well. All these kind of blonde, kind of girl child narrators. I've just read two of them, Head and Shoulders, which is kind of a funny one, which is probably where Flappers and Philosophers comes from, where this flapper or vaudevillian singer woman is kind of paid to kind of go visit this very egg-headed philosopher, young dude in, I think it's Yale, and they do fall in love, and throughout the story, that actual who is the head of the relationship and who is the shoulders. She's known as the shoulders because it gets her dancing and she uses those shoulders. But now that gets reversed. It's a little bit kind of a little bit trite, but it's actually kind of a story that, hey, Fitzgerald actually did a story where these man and woman actually seem to have kind of an actual kind of happy, kind of functional relationship, and kind of as more equals. So it's a little less of that kind of girl child one. The other story I read, just finished reading, is the cut glass bowl, which is almost like a picture of Dorian Gray in a sense, of this cut glass bowl that this woman, Evie, is given by a lover who says it's cold and is hard, and as it's cold and as hard and as beautiful as you are, and it's kind of a screw you gift, and it's this kind of weird curse on her throughout the story where she ages. And it's interesting to see Fitzgerald do this thing of her aging, and it's actually kind of that kind of mirroring of something of like Oscar Wilde and the picture of Dorian Gray, where it's like, oh, picture perfect beauty, not unchanging, where in Dorian Gray it's like it's hiding the picture hides the corruption of the central guy, whereas in the cut glass bowl she actually becomes like more and more of a kind of actually in some ways a better person, even though Fitzgerald himself in his descriptions seems to kind of more and more degrade her. Like the older she gets, the more he thinks that she's kind of faded away and dissipated, but actually she kind of comes across as more and more of a caring, nice person, thus getting more and more tortured by what's supposedly kind of a symbol of her as when she was inhumanly beautiful and cold and disappointed this guy that whose face at by the end she can't even remember. And it's got this kind of, there's an interesting tying of the fates of her and the cut glass bowl. And boy, that even if I kind of really disagree with, like, it's like, you can age and actually have a happier life. It's like, wow, you think about Fitzgerald, it's like, wow, you must have had a really happy early life, and then things just went more and more to shit as they went along. And I mean, this is interesting. This is written in the 1920s, and he dies, later in his late 40s or early 50, and that is the trajectory of his life in a way, as things really seem to go more and more to shit for him, which is like, it's oddly, it's like, is that in your head so much that that's what you end up, you write your life how you're going to think it. So yeah, but wow, that writing there at the end about with the cut glass bowl at the end is just, it's really bravura. So even when I can really disagree with someone like Fitzgerald, I can fight with the text. It's like, wow, this is wonderfully written. I can see why he might stick around for a little bit longer. And even though some of the stories might be thing. So because I don't think I'm gonna pick up another paper book. I'm gonna buckle down, and I'm just gonna read my ebook as thing. But I'm gonna get another audiobook. And I decided I just go light and fluffy, just like a mere parfait of something. No, I'm not going to do that. I took a hunt around on my library Libby app, and If Beale Street Could Talk, a 1974 novel by American writer James Baldwin was free, and this has got an added benefit that I can read the novel, and then I can go and watch the movie, which of course the name of the filmmaker, but it's the same filmmaker who made Moonlight, which I really loved, and that was like one of my last, well, not one of my last, but one of my really happy experiences in a movie theater, getting to watch Moonlight. He made If Beale Street Could Talk into a movie, so I'll gonna listen to the book, and I've already started that, and it's like, Baldwin is a really amazing writer. I haven't read very much by him. There was a little thing in an old New Yorker that I read by him, kind of a little bit of a memoir thing, which I really enjoyed. So, and I mean, obviously, because I only subscribe to the finest channels, I've heard a lot of people, Brian at Bookish and others, talk about how good of a writer James Baldwin is. So I thought, okay, let's just go for some good stuff. So yeah, that'll be what I'll be listening to this week, and hopefully joyfully coming back to it, and not dragging myself back to it. I think I think the thing that can kind of destroy the love of reading for a lot of people, especially because a lot of people learn how to read at school, is that it's an obligation. It's like, oh, I have to read this assignment, and for whatever reason, I just got two things there that I was feeling like this is assignment reading, and it's like, I'm not here for assignments. I'm here to enjoy. Just completely hedonistic reading on this channel, which doesn't mean not challenging reading, but it means it's going to be challenging in a way that is going to nurture and I'm going to enjoy. So that is my affirmation of my reading for this week. Thank you for joining me for book therapy, and go for a swim if you can. It's really, really good thing to do. All right, more videos later.